Hello, and welcome to the 19th episode of the Sidescape Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Burke, and joined, as always, by James St. Charles. James, tell the fine folks at home how you doing.
I'm doing great. It's a great time for gaming,
Whew.
and I played a lot.
How tired are you from staying up late and playing games?
I feel like I can't sleep. Like I would just continuously play games. Like it feels like I'm a kid again. Like I can just play like Call of Duty all night or Halo all night. It's
Right.
like that kind of.
It feels like high school
Weird.
all over again.
Yeah, it feels like I'm in high school.
Yeah, like I don't got a bedtime. I'm just gonna stay up all night and
Exactly.
play
Like,
games.
I don't got work, or I could like telework.
Yeah, right. We've been doing our nice lunch meetings where we play Warzone.
Yes.
Yeah. I do actually want to
New
talk a
update
little
coming.
about Warzone, about the new update in a minute. But before we do any of that, this is the Sidescape Gaming Podcast, episode 19, where every Monday morning a new episode goes live on youtube.com and now on SoundCloud and Spotify. Please follow us over there, and if you like the audio version, let us know. And once a week, we sit down and Skype across 500 miles to talk about the latest video game news, like the PS5 controller revealed, the DualSense, and a main topic like this week's Resident Evil 3 Remake review. And at the end of every episode, we slowly build the Sidescape Top 20 Best Games of All Time list by adding one game at a time. But before we do any of that, we always start with one thing, James. What have you been playing? That was my best intro ever. I just want to take a moment and just applaud
I don't think you
myself.
messed up one
Didn't
time.
slur? I'm in the
Yeah.
zone. Let's go. This is going to be a good show. What have
And
you been
that was
playing? Yeah.
Okay, so the first game, we'll talk about what we've both been playing.
Yeah.
But one game that I played a while back, and then like kind of like stuff came out, so I didn't touch on it again. And then now I came back to it and finished it, was Black Mesa.
Yep. The Half-Life remake, right?
Absolutely one of the best Half-Life remakes, but it's the truest of true that it is exactly like copying Half-Life 1.
Right.
It's just updated models. So the puzzles are the same, there's like barely any story, but it's just fun shooting and figuring out what's going on.
Okay.
And it was long. It's like 23-hour campaign.
Wow.
So pretty well worth it. And the game is like $30, maybe less.
That's awesome.
So, and this was worked on for about 15 years.
Yeah, they
so-
started a long time ago, right?
Real dedication. And then they came out with Black Mesa in early access, and they got up to a certain point. Like basically, they did 70% of the game.
Okay.
And the last 30% of the game took them like 2 years.
Jesus.
So it was a lot of dedication to do this last ever, and it showed. Like there was just like a lot of new things. They basically had you like recreate like a save. Basically, like if you like beat the first part, it was like, all right, we did so much new things, you can't actually play your old save. Which sucks, but I just like continued from on like,
Okay.
and there was just like so many different things. They had like a little jetpack that you can boost off. It was just really fun.
Worth the play?
It's worth the play, but it's if you have time, basically play it right now if you have time.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's like there's not much it adds to the story. Talking
So,
with one of our friends of ours.
with,
Good.
sorry, I was just question with it. Because like, I've never played Half-Life. Would it be a good jumping
Yeah.
on point for me to play?
You could play it like just to like see what Half-Life is, but I swear it does nothing for the story. Like
Right.
if you played Half-Life 2, you could surmise what happened because everyone just talks about what you did in Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2.
Okay.
Oh, that's he did that.
Gotcha.
And it's like, and you do it in Half-Life 1, it doesn't quite make sense. There's actually a better game that Gunnar and I were talking about that they haven't remade that we wish we could play. It's called Operation, I think it's like Breaking Point. It's some Operation. Basically, it's in the perspective of the soldier, and it wasn't made by
Valve.
Valve. It was
Okay.
made by Gearbox.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's actually, when people say it's one of the best Half-Life games out there.
Oh, wow.
I think it's Operation Breaking Point. I have to take a look, but it's in the perspective of a soldier, so it's more true to what would have been done. Because basically, you're like an MIT scientist, and you're like just shooting everyone, like going flying around, like destroying everything, and like that doesn't quite make sense. So in the perspective of a soldier at Black Mesa, that kind of made sense, and it plays well.
That's cool.
But it's old, so it's like kind of held up. It's like an early 2000s game.
Gotcha.
That would be a better game. But that being said, it's old.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a better game. Like if you want to play 1, 2, 3,
This would be a good
play,
modern way
you
to
could
do
play
it.
1 because 1 is too old. You could play Black Mesa, and it's
And it's comparable.
really great. Yep.
Very
Oh,
cool.
pretty great.
Okay.
Not too much to say with the story though. It's
It's Half-Life.
just pretty much fighting.
Yeah. Okay. And what else have you been playing? I see on your list something else.
Oh, I did write Civ 6.
Civilization 6. Wow.
This is the perfect time to start a Civilization game because you'll probably finish it. So a couple of friends of ours wanted to do a Civ game, and I was like, all right, let's just do it. And then our goal is to just get to endgame.
Yeah, thanks for the
Like, we're
invite.
just
Thanks for
going
the
in.
invite, guys. That was really nice of you guys.
We were talking about like who we're gonna invite. I was like, we could invite Eric, and Eric's like too busy. And I was like, can we invite Jake? And then this was like, oh, but Jake and Maddie might be doing something, like maybe he won't be able to commit.
yeah,
you have to all be online. We're not doing the turn-based
okay.
stuff.
Yeah, I
so
wouldn't
that's why
have
it's
been
like
able
we
to commit.
all. So we were trying to like make sure it can get not too big, because then everyone can't get together.
Right.
But so us three are dedicating, like, we're gonna do this. We only played like a couple hours last night because it was still hard to get time.
What
we're trying to, like,
nation
get
are
the-
you?
I am Genghis Khan, so I'm the
There it is. Yeah. Pillage them all.
They're great. They have a unit that can basically like kill another unit, and then it takes it.
Yeah.
Like, it captures it. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
So, and then, but we had a really shit start. Cutter and I are on the same island
Okay.
with 2 other nations, and it's like a small island. Ted started with only 1 other nation, and his island's twice as big as ours. So he's like literally, he's gonna win. But Gutter and I are trying to like amass a big enough army to like take him on.
That's
So,
awesome.
We could 2v1 him.
Yeah. Join
We'll
an
see.
alliance. Is it a secret alliance, or does he know you're going
If he
after
watches
him?
this, he'll know. But we haven't said anything.
He doesn't watch this.
Exactly.
He's a jerk. Okay, well, I've been playing, before we talk about kind of the main stuff, but I've been playing a lot more Animal Crossing. I haven't
You played Animal Crossing? I didn't know you played Animal
haven't
Crossing.
talked a lot about it on this show.
Yeah.
Oh my God, James.
What are your thoughts on it?
I love this game. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't told many people. Please watch last week's episode if you want to
Yeah,
hear
have
more
you
about
reviewed it?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. But no, it's such a fun game. Just kind of keep messing around with. Bunny Day. They fixed the Bunny Day spawns a little bit, so I'm not picking up eggs every time I try to go fishing. That's a very inside baseball for anybody playing Animal Crossing. You'd understand. But no, it's just been great. I've paid off another loan to my house. Now I got 3 rooms. Tom Nook,
Oh, sweet.
he just gave me another debt, which is insanely large. But been playing the stock market, which is STALK instead of stock, for where you buy turnips and then you wait throughout the week to sell them at a higher price. And one of my friend's islands was selling them for a much higher price, so I went over there and sold my turnips. But then he posted
Hey, that's Ponzi scheming.
he posted it on Reddit saying, hey, like, you can sell turnips for X amount over here on my island. He had like 6 or 7 people show up. He made 1.5 million because people would leave him 10% of what they made.
That's Ponzi scheming.
Yeah.
He went to like another area to sell it for a higher price.
That's what they encourage. So it's been really fun to just kind of keep messing around with it and stuff. I'm going to reorganize my house after this show. I'm very excited. But it's the perfect, just relaxing game, which is just, I'm going to keep talking about it
Especially
because
for
I
this
love
time.
it. The next game I played, which is one of my favorite games, just ever, probably in my top 50 or whatever, Sunset Overdrive from Insomniac. I think it came out like 6 years ago when the Xbox One first came out. But that is the most video game ever, and like, it's just perfect. You see so many like roots of Spider-Man in it, but you're just a fun shooter that's super like punk rock alternative, like to on the nose humor, and it's such a great game to just mess around with. And
What are you playing it on?
I'm playing it on Game Pass on PC. It is free on
Yeah,
Game
it is.
Pass. Please download it. It's an amazing game. If you've never played it, it's super fun.
I'll probably have to check it out.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's a shooter where like monsters have invaded this small town, and you are the hero that you get to like, create your hero. But you can like change your gender if you want throughout the game, and like it's a different voice actor for each character. But it's so meta that like after you change your clothes and then your gender, the person will come up and be like, oh, a new voice actor, like, but I guess the same lines, lazy writers. And like it's like super meta in that way, and it's so fun.
I like that. That's like a Borderlands type humor that I
yeah.
like. It's really.
It has very Borderlands like even intros, like the villains come up at like it does a splash screen across their name of like, the Headhunter or whatever. I just bumped my
I love that.
microphones. But yeah, it's really fun. It's a ridiculous game that is just meant to be fun, and play it in small doses, play it in like large ones. The movement is so Spider-Man-esque. You can like see like they built this movement engine of like grinding on stuff, and they're like, if we can do this with like running and swinging, like this is how you make a Spider-Man game. I'm sure that's how they pitched to Sony, being like, we created this movement system here, allow us to do it with Spider-Man. It's great. I really recommend Sunset Overdrive to like everybody. It's just ridiculous fun, and it's free. Go play it on Game Pass.
It's crazy how that's like an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
Basically, and then Spider-Man is a PlayStation exclusive.
And now Sony owns Insomniac, so it's like if we do get
and PS Now
yeah,
it's free.
yeah, Spider-Man is free on
This month.
PS Now. I've never played
So-
PlayStation Now though, because you don't download it on your console. I don't think. I think it's just
You play it
streaming.
on the.
I think
how
you
that
play it on the cloud. So
It's always online thing.
yeah, it's not like
It
Game
works.
Pass, but hey, I don't know. We'll see. I should try out PlayStation Now and see how it plays. Maybe if they put Persona 5 Royal on there, I'll jump into.
Oh, that would actually be worth it then.
Dude, heck yeah, that's a game I think I'm gonna play eventually. Is the remaster of Persona 5 because nothing's gonna come out for the next like 3 months after all this. So,
and then who knows if anything else can get pushed because
yeah,
a lot of stuff is getting like derailed.
Not a news story I posted on here, but CD Projekt Red, I don't know if you saw this, talked about Cyberpunk 2077 recently, and said that they are ensured the game will not be delayed. Because they are able to do what they were doing from home because it's just fixing bugs and making sure it's polished. Like they're basically done with like the main game. It's just like fixing and playtesting and like fine tuning. So like we can do all of that from home. So we don't see it being delayed. And that's good. I think that game's a big enough PC game too, where it won't be worried about like, oh, we can't make physical games. Like they may just release it digitally at first, be like physical games will come out. But I think that'll be more
I think they'll be okay. Yeah. Because they're pretty far away, at least from when things should get back rolling.
Yeah, September something.
I heard that they're also going to be releasing or announcing DLC right when the game comes out.
Yes.
Which CD Projekt Red DLC is the best DLC of all time in any game company history.
Yes.
Because they make full games as their DLC, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I think we'll definitely
Heart of Stone, and people believe me. I've read comments where people say Heart of Stone is better than Blood and Wine. So don't believe the Blood and Wine hype.
But Blood and Wine's still good. Don't discredit Blood and Wine.
It's good, but it's nowhere near story good.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
Right.
That's all it is.
So I just thought that was kind of a cool and interesting thing about Cyberpunk, where like I think we're gonna see a big drought of games pretty soon, especially like indie, and like it's gonna be a drought. So it's kind of cool to know that we've got Cyberpunk.
Well, here's the flip side. I wonder if we're gonna see like more like these indie games release, like maybe like on Steam or some, or even PlayStation Store, like Xbox Game Pass, where they've had more time to work on it because now like they can dedicate full-time programming. People who are like home programmers.
I hope so.
Because what I've seen with Stardew Valley is their AP is really delving into like fixing bugs, doing all this like cleanup stuff. Terraria even announced that they're gonna release their update this summer. They're like, oh yeah, we're going full gung ho. We're gonna release. So like these little indie games are actually getting a little bump, and maybe they'll get more, exposure because now everyone will be able to see them and play them. That's a cool thing there. Minecraft as well. Like there's little updates that they're working on.
Yeah, and we know Minecraft Dungeons comes out like May 28th or something. I think it took The Last of Us date, which I think is really funny.
I read an article where it was like saying it was by far the most, this is how they described it. It's easy but complex. And I like that because it makes me think like you can do like basic things and then take it a step above what like the scope of RTS is and this type of dungeon crawler RTS, like Diablo-esque. I'm excited for that.
I'm very looking forward to
that. That's no chance that gets like...
No, they've officially confirmed it now. So, which is exciting. And then the other thing that we've been playing besides Resident Evil 3 that we talked about, but we just briefly talked about our first like 4 or 5 hours with Final Fantasy VII Remake. What is your overall just brief thought about what this game is doing so far?
I'm immersed.
Me too.
Like a game hasn't pulled me in like this in a long time. Like I'm playing like nonstop basically. I'll be like playing it, and then it's like, oh, I have to go do something else. But I can still play a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just, and also there's one thing I describe about games. It's like there's art, there's atmosphere, but the music. FF7 has by far the best music out of any Final Fantasy game.
I don't notice music a lot.
And it's completely redone.
I don't notice music a lot and stuff like Star Wars, but that's like you're supposed to, right?
Yeah.
The music in this game is amazing.
I love the fighting music. The fighting music is by far some of the best fighting music in all Final Fantasy.
It does a very Doom-like thing where like the music continues and like it's like kind of the same beat, or I don't know. This is how much I know about music.
No, you're exactly right though. It's the same song, like same type of notes. On repeat,
and then it like fades out, kind of
ramps
once.
Up.
Yeah, it ramps and then fades out like once you finish the battle. So it feels like that song was perfectly made for the duration of my fight. It flows
so well. Yeah, you're right. It flows like for the perfect fight. Like, but Final Fantasy does that because 15 had that as well, and 15 was also a great soundtrack.
This game's incredible.
7 atmosphere, the voice acting isn't too bad. I actually Barrett's grown on me.
I really like Barrett actually.
Yeah, he's really grown.
He comes off like just like this big old
soft,
stereotype.
But tough.
Yeah. I'm actually really enjoying the characters. Like we talked briefly before. Jessie is a little thirsty, like a little too much. Like
Jessie is like really like you don't want to like her.
No, she's just kind of annoying.
Like, just like get off me.
Tifa's okay, but I actually really like Cloud's character of like he's just like. The way I describe him as a fuckboy, like he just kind of comes off as like he is a fuckboy, right?
That's exactly.
And like, but like he's this like such a stupid looking character that looks so cool. Like I think he looks awesome, but like he just looks like a boy band guy. But he looks.
You look at his hair, and it's like no one else has that hair, and it's like what the heck? And then you have that Well, you played 5 though, so you have like the have you played the other soldier? Yeah, where you're racing
Yeah.
That guy has like a bullet.
I know.
It's like what the.
Yeah, I love like his hair, and like then he's got that big
Oh,
sword,
sure.
and he's just like so standoffish and like, I don't want anything to do with you guys, and then like but like secretly he does, and you're like, oh, Cloud.
Yeah.
I think the game is beautiful. Like,
Best looking game, probably. Well, I said 2020, but it's probably ever.
yeah, like
It's so well. These little details that you just can pinpoint out builds the atmosphere.
mm-hmm.
So I say 2020 because Cyberpunk hasn't come out. We haven't seen.
We haven't seen what that looks like. And I think The Last of Us is probably going to be the best looking game just because it's Naughty Dog and it's what they do. But
yeah.
I think the reason this game looks like, I still believe, in my opinion, Uncharted 4 I think is the best like realistic looking game I still think ever made, as of right now. I think the reason this game is better looking than Uncharted though is not realism. It like takes the art style of like almost like an anime like CG movie and condenses it, and like the lighting works with this like anime-ish style.
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly what it is.
Cloud doesn't look like a real person, but like he blends in with the environment enough like to make it look real, I guess, but not real. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it doesn't look like disjointed. It looks like it
flows.
It looks like it's real. So
yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm immersed. I'm very glad Maddie is here for my sanity because I would probably just put endless amount of hours
every time you have it.
It's awesome. I just keep wanting to play it and staying up all night. I'm very excited to see what we think about it next week.
Yeah, which again, I think I want to like touch on this game versus the game we're going to review.
I agree. I think you need to.
Which we got to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it for me.
That's basically it for me. Let's go right into the news. So this is gonna be a long news story. It's basically our only news story, but it's a long read through. But I think it's important. So introducing the DualSense, the new wireless game controller for PlayStation 5. This comes from Hideaki Nishono at the PlayStation blog. We've reached an exciting milestone with the PlayStation 5, as we are starting to ship our new controller in its final design to developers who are implementing its unique features into their games. But first, we wanted everyone in the PlayStation community to get a first look at the DualSense wireless controller, and to hear our vision for how the new controller will captivate more of your senses as you interact with the virtual worlds in the PS5 games. The features of the DualSense, along with the PS5's Tempest 3D audio tech, will deliver a new feeling of immersion to players. When PS4 launched in 2013, the DualShock 4 wireless controller garnered a lot of positive feedback from gamers and developers for being the best PlayStation controller yet, and for introducing forward-looking features like the share button. This brought us to the next question: how do we build upon that success? After thoughtful consideration, we decided to keep much of what gamers love about the DualShock 4 intact, while also adding new functionality and refining the design. Based on our discussions with developers, we concluded that the sense of touch within gameplay, much like audio, hasn't been a big focus for many games. We had a great opportunity with the PS5 to innovate by offering a game creator the ability to explore how they can heighten that feeling of immersion through our new controller. This is why we adopted haptic feedback, which adds a variety of powerful sensations you'll feel when playing a game, such as a slow grittiness of driving a car through mud. We also incorporated adaptive triggers into the L2 and R2 buttons of the DualSense, so you can truly feel the tension of your actions, like when drawing a bowstring to shoot an arrow. This provided us with an exciting challenge to design a new controller that builds off the current generation, while taking into account the new features we were adding. For example, with adaptive triggers, we had to consider how the components would fit into the hardware without giving it a bulky feeling. Our design team worked closely with our hardware engineers to place the triggers and actuators. What's an actuator, James? Give me what an actuator is.
Ooh, you've touched upon a really great. So actuator is like it's like moving components.
Okay.
So actuation is, and so it's something that moves. So like you have a gyros, like gyroscopes in your monitors, and that provides like the when you have a vibration.
Yeah.
It's basically just a giant spinning kind of like magnet. That'd be like a gyroscopic movement like this. Actuator is like a linear movement. It's gonna move like this.
Gotcha.
Interesting how it's
okay. The designers were able to then draw the lines on how the exterior of the controller would look and feel, with the challenge of making the controller feel smaller than it really looks. In the end, we changed the angle of the hand triggers and also made some subtle changes to the grip. We also took a thoughtful consideration into ways to maintain a strong battery life for the DualSense's rechargeable battery, and to lessen the weight of the controller as much as possible as new features were added. For the buttons, you'll notice there is no longer a share button, as we had for the DualShock 4. Don't worry, it's not going away. Yep. In fact, we've built upon the success of our industry-first share button to bring you a new Create button feature. With Create, we're once again pioneering new ways for players to create epic gameplay content to share with the world, or to just enjoy for themselves. We'll have more details on this feature as we get closer to launch. DualSense also adds a built-in microphone array, which enable players to easily chat with friends without a headset. Ideal for jumping into a quick conversation, but of course, if you're planning to chat for a long period of time, it's good to have that headset handy. There's a few more paragraphs about the color of the controller, which I don't think we really need to go into, but
or do we? Because that was like a big thing.
Fucking Christ, apparently.
That everyone was blowing up with.
The visual for the audio listeners, and I can put something in the video, but basically the controller is primarily white with like a black underline area, and the light bar that was on the back of the PlayStation 4 controller is now like comes around the touchpad, and it has a more like Xboxy looking.
It's like grip. An Xbox exterior with the interior and internals of PlayStation, which I think is great.
Yeah,
because that shows that they're like willing to change their design to meet more needs, and I truly believe this will actually be better than the Xbox.
I think so. Now, so I want to talk about kind of the features that are front loading this thing, because obviously I think haptic feedback is the one thing that Xbox isn't doing.
No, but they did the adaptive triggers.
Yes,
they had that, and to me, no real difference. Like it's actually not. I can pick up my 360 controller versus my Xbox One, and it feels kind of the same.
Yeah.
So not well done, I would say, but they did do it.
Right. They did do it. But I think the haptic feedback obviously could just be the gimmick that Sony is starting with, like the touchpad was when games first came out for PS4. Of like in Infamous Second Son, you'd put your thumb like on the touchpad to do like a thumb scanner and like swipe for opening doors. But Sony's really leaning hard into it right now for PlayStation 5. What does haptic feedback do for you at all, if it does anything?
Well, does that imply like you'll feel stuff when you do the touchpad? Is that basically?
No, I think it's more like
there's haptic feedback for the Steam controllers.
Okay.
And those, it was just like a little pad that you just like mess on. You could feel movement, so you'd move and like it would just be a circle, but you'd move it like with your thumbs, and you can like move directional wise, so it would detect, but you would feel like you're moving that direction. So I was like, are they doing that the same thing with their touchpad?
I don't think it has to do with the touchpad. My guess is like
controller?
I'm wondering how the controller operates with haptic feedback, and like maybe the joystick. It's harder to push the joystick through mud when you're on
that
in a car.
Right there is a big innovative thing if they could do that.
I'd be interested if that's
but
kind of.
I was
where
like, how are they
going.
gonna do that at cost? Like people were like talking about all the features, and they're like, oh, it's gonna be $100 controller. I'm like, we'll see, because
yeah,
you're right, because how the triggers, or not triggers, not the
like joysticks.
They're analog joysticks, and you basically move in a certain direction, and the voltage like goes up or down, and that's usually like to detect. So if they like have something that like fights you there, I don't know, it gets really complicated, because then you have to like say, okay, when they meet this certain point, you go this fast or this slow.
Yeah.
So if there's some resistance,
that'd be
like
haptic
feedback.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're describing, like the grittiness of driving a car, which I'm like,
that's what I'm getting from
interesting.
It.
How that works. I'm really curious how that feels, because it seems like they just, when in the beginning of the article it says they just shipped it out. Their developers. We might not even see the true potential for a while.
Right. Well, and I think that's why they've unveiled this, right? They're not doing it because it's like a next step in their process. They're like, if we mail this out, it's going to leak. So we just got to reveal it now before it leaks to get ahead of leaks, right? Because people are already saying we're not showing off enough about our console. What do you think about adaptive triggers? That's, I think, one of the things I'm most interested in.
If they do it well, they look the same. Like you look at how they look.
Yeah, they look
exactly the same. Whereas the Xbox 360 versus One, you could tell the trigger was like really like much bigger. You got more
feedback. I'm just curious.
Real estate. So
they're really leaning into the bow, right? Which is obviously for Horizon Zero, whatever it's called, the next Horizon game, which I think will be predicting launch game for PlayStation 5. I think they're really leaning into like having that tension be there, like where you are pushing the hold in.
Increase resistance on your trigger, so it's like you're like really trying to. I wonder how much they could do. Like
me too. I hope it's
like
cool.
Make come on, shoot.
I hope it's a
shooting a 50 cal. Like
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
this controller tech is really interesting, because there's a lot you can do. At the same time, the more stuff you do, the price goes up. Yeah. So like you see those Xbox controllers, the $100. I forgot which the
the Elite controller. The Elite controller.
Yeah, those are like they have just insane amount of like stuff that you can do in like a bunch of
The
triggers. But it's like,
customization and the buttons.
do I need all this stuff? Like to me, I like something that's just like fits well in the hand. Which Xbox I feel like has the best controller. But
Okay.
PlayStation looks better.
Yes, I would agree with that.
It's looking better, and it's probably gonna feel better. And I'm down for something that feels more like Xbox, even though like the D-pad and the triggers are different, or the joysticks are different. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
The thing I'm interested about though too is they released that back button attachment for the PS5 controller or PS4 controller recently. There are no back buttons on this controller.
I think that I don't know. I don't like those type of.
Isn't that weird though that they like kind of leaned into it and then like
I think they say stop people like, "Yeah, do you need extra buttons?" Like, I don't really think so.
Well, my guess is that thing did not sell very well. So they're like, I guess people don't want this. The last thing too, I think, which is interesting, is it is a white controller, right? Primarily white.
Xbox 360 controller was white too.
I know, but does this mean that the PS5 is white?
Yeah, probably.
I think so too.
Yeah, because usually I'm trying to think of when they didn't match, and they always match.
always
but that
match.
being said, primarily, the PlayStation 1, it was gray, and it matched the console. PlayStation 2, black, matched the console. PlayStation 3, black, matched the console. Or black.
Match the console.
Now they're going white?
White and black?
But they
I
did
know.
have a white edition, and the white controller did come.
That's
So
true.
that's why.
The Destiny Avalanche edition or whatever it was called.
Yep.
So that's the first kind of big reveal, I think, of hardware for PlayStation 5, which is pretty exciting. So we'll see.
The biggest news.
The biggest news. And then just another little tidbit for something that we kind of figured was going to happen, but now it's been official. The ESA will not hold a digital E3 2020 event. This is from Rebecca Valentine over at gamesindustry.biz. It's official. There will be no E3 2020, not even online. In a statement shared with PC Gamer, the ESA has confirmed that it will not be holding an online experience for E3 2020, as it had originally planned with the cancellation of its physical event due to COVID-19. Instead, we will be working with exhibitors to promote and showcase individual company announcements, said an ESA representative. We look forward to bringing our industry and community together in 2021 to present a reimagined E3 that will highlight new offerings and thrill our audiences. Late last week, the ESA confirmed to its partners that the E3 event for 2021 would be held June 15th through the 17th. So,
You want to know how I feel about that?
how do you feel?
Who cares?
Me too.
IGN's literally gonna just stomp them this summer, and everyone even hyped out. It's like, oh, IGN's gonna take out. So if either even like puts out a little highlight, IGN already had like 10 steps ahead.
Yeah, they were sensitive bad.
And if they like can get like the ball rolling on like, oh, this event was pretty successful, why do I need to go to E3? And I think they're gonna really fight E3 next year. So hopefully it's successful.
I think so too. I also think just because basically as well, we as consumers watch E3 online. There's a very limited group that goes to E3, and from what I've heard, if you go as a consumer to E3, it's not great.
It sucks. Yeah, it's not for you.
It's
like
not
literally,
PAX.
it used to be. It's not for you now.
Yeah. So
PAX is for you.
PAX is for the audience, right? So I really think this is kind of another nail in their coffin of like they couldn't even, I think, get the E3 big partners to be a part of their digital event.
This is the biggest event. They can't even pull together a digital like reconstruction and get their same partners and have like.
Well, what I read from this was they probably reached out to UB, EA, Microsoft, like, hey, like let's hold your conferences under like this banner, and everyone's like, we don't need to be under your banner. We'll just do our own thing. We're not going to pay you to do what we normally do. So I think that's a big kind of step of this.
The consumer is still okay. Like basically, they're still gonna be getting their game release, their game
announcements.
Yeah, not their maybe releases. Probably not, but indie game release probably.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be okay.
Well, and we know
but
Bethesda
for the developers, they might get hit a little bit more since they can't go anywhere physically. That being said, this is the perfect time if you're a developer like working at home to like because you got time. That being said, you could be just working on the game.
Yeah, you could be doing the other thing.
But
too.
if you are a teleworking developer, it's like perfect to like see like, oh, I just saw this on IGN that they had this for this game. Like, because sometimes when you're at the event, you can't see everything.
Yeah,
if that makes sense to me. Like you're doing your own booth, you're doing your own thing, and then now like everyone's basically gonna be just watching what comes. There's more eyes, I feel like, on games that are gonna be announced this.
I think so too.
Presented or technology is gonna be presented.
Well, and like we were talking earlier, there's not a lot after, this game, that we're all playing Final Fantasy VII. After this,
you got a month
there?
basically.
Yeah, you got a month before Minecraft Dungeon. There's not a lot like coming after that either. So it's like, what are we gonna Apparently,
Everyone, what are we gonna do?
what are we gonna do? I guess we're playing Persona 5.
We should do like a back catalog, like games you must play if you have time.
I like that.
Kind of a, which I think this is what we should do. We should challenge each other.
Okay.
Play one game that we haven't played, like off each other's like back catalog.
You're gonna make me play Half-Life. God damn
I would
it.
make you play. I'd
Yeah,
make
you
water.
will. Yeah, you will. All right, but I want to talk
We'll
about
figure it.
what we just played, what we just beat. Resident Evil 3 Remake from Capcom, coming off the heels of Resident Evil 2 Remake last year, a Game of the Year contender. You just played Resident Evil 2 before you played this
Yes.
game. What did you
Yeah,
think of Resident Evil 3? Give me your just your overhead.
Well, so three does a lot of things new
Mm-hmm.
and better than 2. That being said, lengthwise, story-wise, it was 4. It kind of felt like you're just like rushing through it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's was their intention.
Yes.
Because after you beat it, it's like, oh, let's do a harder difficulty, and then after you beat that hard difficulty, it's like, oh, let's do it even harder difficulty. Oh, by the way, if you want to get S rank, you have to beat it in like 2 hours. So it was like they just really wanted to make like a time attack kind of speedrun type campaign, which to me is not my style. I love the puzzles.
Mhm.
So 2 really capitalized on the puzzles and researching and looking at every nook and cranny, and the atmosphere was better. But 3 was very much you're fighting, which some people like that, and I think that's okay. Like if you're fighting more, cool. You can fight Nemesis, cool. But that wasn't really like my style. Also, it felt like the zombies had more. This is gonna sound weird, but like human feel.
Hmm.
You kill a zombie in 2 and it stayed there. Like that body was there. Like you killed that person. In 3, they disappear. And it's really apparent in the hospital level where you're like fighting like a horde mode for some reason. Like I really like think like I was like, this is cool, but it's like not really important. And they disappear. So like there's just bodies over. So you're just like literally like fighting like a normal zombie. To me, that took apart from the Resident Evil, this new Resident Evil that we've been playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just the feel wasn't good.
Right. So, yeah, I guess I want to piggyback on some stuff you just said. You said that they did a lot of stuff new, and usually it worked, which I would say about, the new stuff that was in the game, I think it worked about half the time. I think it just did the weird thing again on your side, but that's fine. It's just so bizarre. There you go. We're back. So I think the new things that this game did, obviously, it focuses more on this action-heavy side of zombie fighting.
Yeah.
And I know from the past Resident Evil games, 1, 2, 6, every game gets more action-based, especially after 2, 3. 4 is pretty action-based, but 4 like has little horror, weird elements, and you're not just fighting zombies. 5 is like almost an action, like just crazy
It's
action.
entirely action. Like I can't remember like any puzzles.
And 6 is just like shoot 'em up zombie horde game, right? This game, I think that it slowly starts as like a survival horror game that becomes an action-packed.
Yep.
game.
It starts out great. Like I think the
does.
start is really good.
Yeah, the start
But,
was, I think, better than Resident Evil 2. That first initial like escape in the subway, you're in the city streets, and basically what the demo was, right? And I like too that the demo switched around where Nemesis comes in and stuff, because like
I love that too because I was like, oh, okay, here
I was like, here comes
basically,
Nemesis.
so let's do like a FF7 remake came out with the demo, and
Yep.
it plays basically the exact same.
Yeah.
It's like what the hell, but then 3 comes out with the demo and it doesn't play the same at all.
That's really
so you
cool.
think like you're doing like things that like, oh, here comes Nemesis, and it's like, oh
I
wait,
don't know. Yeah, I opened that door to like out of
here.
the donut place. And
Yeah,
I
I
was
was
like,
like, okay,
here it
ready.
comes. What the? Like, did I do something wrong? Like, I have the.
I
hose.
love that. That was a little
Really like
good
that.
shake up there.
So I thought that the combat plays, it's exact same combat how it plays as Resident Evil 2. There's no like improvements to the shooting. That being said, I felt like the zombies had way more health in this game.
Yeah, zombies are faster and they have more health, and you have an infinite knife now. But like, I almost never use it except for like when they're down the
I
bottom.
always check them with my knife. I walk
Like
over to-
you just knife check.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's what you would do in 2, but your knife would break,
Yeah.
which I thought was better. So you couldn't just keep infinite knife checking stuff.
Mm-hmm. So there was
So
one.
that was interesting.
One complaint I have about this game, and it's so minor, like it's just this, but it's a personal thing between you and me. So I would knife check all the zombies. Well, I knife checked one of them, and it didn't move, and I was like, okay, perfect. I walk around a corner to like interact with a crate, and the zombie like jumped on my back, and I was like, no, game. There was nothing behind me. I checked all of these corpses.
I swear there's like triggers for them
Yeah.
because like sometimes they would like they're dead and you come back and then they activate.
And I
it's
was like, nah, fuck
that's
that.
bullshit.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously you play as Jill. I say obviously a lot. I need to get better about that. You play as Jill. You play as Carlos.
Jill Valentine.
Jill Valentine, Carlos. Carlos Big Hair, I think is his last name.
Carlosless.
Carlosless. Yeah, Carlosless world. Hey Jill, I'm gonna leave you in a Carlosless world. It's like, shut up.
That's the dumbest line.
Dumbest
ever.
line. What do you think of the graphics? Start there.
Better than 2.
Yeah, the engine's
It
beautiful.
looked also one thing. So I didn't mention this with 2. If you have, I'm pretty sure I didn't, but HDR, high dynamic range. It's like a big thing that I like to do with my monitor because I have an HDR monitor. So 2 and 3 have very similar systems how to set it up. 2, there's a certain point in the game where HDR just completely breaks, and they didn't bother to fix it.
Huh.
That being said, I don't think they fixed it because it might have been like a graphics card thing. So it's like, hey, you fix it, not us. So you have to like turn it off.
Okay.
3, it worked the whole game, and it was beautiful.
Did you play it
I
on
got to play
PC,
HDR.
both of them?
Yep.
Okay. I played it both on
And-
PlayStation Pro.
No issue. Like, again, they're clean games. Like, I almost never crash into either of them.
Yeah.
They're just really tight games. A beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on?
I think it's beautiful. I think lighting, and it's so funny playing this and Final Fantasy VII right next to each other. The lighting in both these games is incredible. Like how light, refracts into like steam and the glass and
Yes.
stuff. Like the way that it like bounces off things is so realistic. It adds like just a touch of like eeriness in Resident Evil 3. Like, yeah, and 2 did the same thing with like how the windows would like share just a bit of light. And then even when you go, there's gonna be some mild spoilers, by the way, for Resident Evil 3 here. When you go back to the mansion as Carlos, which
Which is stupid.
I thought was gonna be awesome, and I got so excited, and then it's fucking terrible.
It's stupid.
It's horrible. It
Like,
makes no
why
sense.
would he go and not Jill? Why would the RCP, like, why would not the police person go back to their police department? And why is someone who's part of a umbrella corporation goes in? And
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, because in the original game, Jill went back. So it was like, what? So they changed that.
Do you play as Carlos in the original game?
I don't think so.
Okay, I didn't know.
You're entirely Jill.
Yeah. It was very wonky going back to the mansion, but the way that like
But anyways, yeah.
the lighting works with the like broken windows into the mansion, I thought was like really fun.
I like going back, because it's like, damn, I just played 2. I know exactly where to go, and nothing was exactly the same. I'm like, damn it.
I know, and I love too
Like,
that like
stuff you would...
you break the stuff that like is broken later on in the game. Like
I love that.
I really like all that.
So I did like, because you basically in the
shower?
the little 2 shower, yeah, the shower. You break that shower when she comes in, because you basically cause the steam
Yep.
that you can't get through.
I thought that was really
That's
cool.
a cool thing, like timing wise.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and you get to see how the black guy, I forget his name, but how he gets shot, like how he gets bit when
Yes.
you first meet him as Leon.
you kind of cause him to get bit, which
Yeah.
kind of like is like, fuck.
You're like, hey man, he's like, hey, oh,
shit.
come on, come on.
And then he locks the door, and it's like, okay, see ya.
Yeah, and then you just open it. And it's really weird. Then he's gone. It was
Yeah.
like, okay. So Nemesis chases you in this game compared to Mr. X. Nemesis. Let's talk about Nemesis. What did we feel about Nemesis in Resident Evil 3
He
remake?
appears right away.
Yes.
Right when the game starts, he appears,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is awesome. That
Yeah.
was kind of cool. That being said, like for the first hour or 2, Nemesis plays kind of like Mr. X. Like he feels like a tyrant class type of like unbeatable.
I think he's terrifying in the first hour. Like how
Yeah.
he leaps around you and like grabs you.
Yeah, that was like way more scary because like you like feel like fuck. He could like jump over me. He could like get
Yeah.
me. Whereas Mr. X is just like he just had like a really aggressive walk. It was
It was
scary,
scary because the footsteps.
but you could just take a punch and be like, I'm fine. But this guy, he can like rope you.
Mm-hmm.
He could do a bunch of stuff to you. That was like,
Well, and like
scary.
you're trying to Mr. X is there to basically cause another obstacle as you solve puzzles, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm running out of time because I need to do this, but Mr. X is coming, like, and that's that tension that like the puzzles are, being halted.
he's like just patrolling.
Yeah. Where in
basically.
this, like, you're only running away from Nemesis. Like, you're not trying to solve anything. You're just like, how do I get from point A to point B with this guy on my ass?
He's literally just cares about you. He cares about stars.
Yeah.
It's like stars.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So he's just hunting down you, which is interesting because you spend most of the time running away. But that even said you could fight him or weapon attachments.
Yeah, which is cool.
You like that was like cool. I was like,
I got
sweet,
like a
silencer.
shotgun attachment and stuff. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
like Santa.
Just like Santa, you drop stuff.
Yeah.
You throw a grenade on him, that's fine. Then I think there are multiple stages in Nemesis where at first he's just jumping around, he's grabbing you with like his zombie whip arm or whatever it is, and then he gets a flamethrower,
Yes.
which is like okay, sure. The flamethrower I
Yeah,
thought
the
was like
flamethrower's
still
cool.
a little scary. Kind of actually made him less scary in my opinion when he started using weapons.
Yeah, that made him more like bossy.
Yeah.
Like this is a boss I'm gonna do.
I was like, this is no longer like a horror game. It's like, oh, he's just like got a flamethrower.
He's a boss.
Then he gets an RPG for like 5 seconds, which I
Yeah, he get for one part where you're just running away and just dodging.
which I thought was like kind of fun. Oh, what did you think of the dodging mechanic?
Oh yeah, we didn't, I forgot what we were
Yeah.
talking. That was one of those things where it works like half the time. That being said, I saw speedrunners and they were getting it perfect every time. So there must be some timing thing that we're not saying that we think we're seeing, but it's not working as intended because you think you hit it perfectly and then you just get destroyed. And it's like, why would I rely on this? I'm just gonna shoot you.
Yeah, I had a lot of dodging issues with boss fights, but not so much like with the normal zombies. I thought like I dodged pretty okay with the normal zombies.
Sometimes I feel like I dodge and then like immediately like you dodge into a zombie like that's like grabbing. And I was like, oh come on, it doesn't carry over. Like what?
Yeah.
So it was hard to like use it in a group, but
I would agree with that.
That be said, because they were faster, so it's like you have to really time it. 2 was way slower.
Then what did you feel about when Nemesis kind of morphs into more of like an animalistic beast kind of thing?
I didn't like it, and in the original, it like takes him a while. He has like more transformations before he gets to that.
Okay.
And at that point, it like he didn't become scary for me.
Yeah, no.
Like he shifted from the tire class to like those like walkers that you had in 2, you know, that would like,
which are way scarier in 2.
Yeah, those are scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt like all the boss battles of Nemesis were kind of underwhelming, and they really, in my opinion, for a game that they really modernized. Like I was watching someone play the old Resident Evil 2, where it is that like fixed perspective and you're running around like this like hollow area.
Yeah.
This game modernized so much of what Resident Evil was, but then it still had these like very traditional boss battles that 2 didn't really have until like even the final battle with Mr. X is not a traditional boss battle. You're like, how am I going to do this?
That was great. That was so hard. You're in a tight space with this dude who's like unbeatable, and you have limited ammo, and you're basically trying to like buy time until that rocket launcher drops and you kill him. But 3, you're fucking him up every single boss battle. You're literally like, destroying him. He's like running away. He's like, oh, he's going in the water, and it's like every single time you're just like fucking him up. And it's just like, okay, and then it gets annoying, and it's like, why? Why am I having to keep fighting? Why can't he just be like?
Why can't he just die? Like I just felt like that. I was like, why can't he just die? Like this guy, I'm gonna beat him.
He takes way more than Mr. X did. Like Mr. X rocket launcher boom dead. This was like you were like nuking him and he's still alive.
Which I do like though, that the final boss battle, and there's big spoilers, I guess, right? He's this big mutated beast.
He's just a clump.
He's just a clump. And I was like, oh my god, there's another boss battle. I just did this crazy big boss battle. But then it's like very much like, no, you're just gonna fuck him up now. Like you're just gonna get this big like rail gun to destroy him. I was like, all right, cool. I'm okay with that.
That was fun. Yeah, I was like, great. They didn't make it too annoying.
Yeah.
But it was still like, and then that's it.
Yeah, and then the game ends.
Spoilers. Which is let's talk about that. Well, it just ends.
It just ends, and I think that's another weird kind of problem where it's just like, and even like the whole like nuking of this, like God, I'm really spoiling the shit out of this game, but whatever. Yeah. The nuking of the city, and like they're like flying a helicopter right behind the nuke, and I'm like, they wouldn't survive this. Like,
it was like, oh, there it is. Boom.
Yeah, and like she's narrating in a weird way. I just felt like the character of Jill was a little underwhelming.
What is the deal with Jill and Carlos's relationship? Let's talk about Carlos.
All right, yeah, let's talk about big hair Carlos. Carlos Big Hair, as they call him in the hood.
Yeah.
Carlos, I think, is the weirdest character in any of these Resident Evil games. He is this like stupidly cocky, trying to be charming and not charming at all cop. Or not cop, but umbrella agent.
Umbrella mercenary.
Which, dude, these people are bad. And he's like totally like, I don't think my people are bad. It's like, no, they keep telling you they're bad. Like, people are like, they're coming to kill us. And he's like, I think Umbrella's trying to do some good. You're like, what are you talking about?
We're going to get this antidote and we're going to do some... It's like, no, they want you to kill that guy.
Yeah, like, kill the Russian evil man. Like, he's obviously a bad guy.
Speaking of the Russian evil man, he talks like Russian Kermit the Frog.
Yes, he
like,
is.
It was like the weirdest Russian accent. Like, yeah, so like this, yeah, we're gonna go kill, yeah, oh no, I look out for myself. Like, he talks like that, and it was just like so jarring for me to like look at him and think of Russian Kermit the Frog.
That was surprisingly accurate to how he talks.
I spent so much time like just like trying to copy his voice.
That was good. But yeah, then
it was just it didn't work.
No, it didn't work. Like, he just was weird. And like
it wasn't as badass.
No, and from the second you see him, you're like, this guy's the bad guy. He's gonna betray us all.
Yeah, he's your antagonist, but he doesn't play like an antagonist. He's like you just like he's afraid. Like, oh, I'm just looking out for myself, and he's running away. And like, but he's causing you problems.
Yeah,
it's just annoying.
Yeah. Carlos,
you're a badass.
You are. Carlos.
Jill's a badass.
Jill's a badass. Carlos is not. And here's my biggest problem with Carlos. You are given an assault rifle with Carlos. You are given an M16 assault rifle. He never feels powerful. Like, it'll take a zombie like a clip of an assault rifle to take him down. And
you're using so many bullets of 5.56, whereas someone else is using like an M9 9mm, like beep beep beep, and dead.
And like I'm like laying a clip into a zombie. I'm like, this isn't fun. This is just frustrating because like I know this thing should not be alive right now.
Yeah.
and I don't know the best way to kill it. And I'm going through ammo left and right, and like it doesn't feel like a survival horror game. It just feels like a frustrating, like I don't even know like how to describe how playing Carlos felt. It was just
You feel like you're nerfed.
Yeah.
Basically, like you're just like shooting Nerf guns at someone's like beep 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 beep, and they'll eventually fall over, or they'll get back up, and it's like, what the hell? I just emptied a clip into you.
Dude, there's one section in the mansion where like there's like 6 or 7 zombies that I just like could not kill, and I kept having to like run into a room and like one of them would follow me, and it was like, this is just so boring.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking.
Yeah, right outside like the welcome Leon sign.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow, there it is.
That's the exact room. Yep. They just keep.
Well, it really felt like they like you're saying nerf, like they just like ramped up the zombie health slider or like ramped down your gun slider of like damage wise. Like it just doesn't add up to how I felt playing as Jill. And like, is Jill's guns more powerful? Because that doesn't make sense. Like she just has a pistol.
Yeah, it felt like the same type, but it was just she did way more damage.
It's just weird. And I felt like it kind of cut the pacing of what I was really enjoying about like Resident Evil 3.
I could have just played Jill the whole time, which is how you did in 2, where you play Leon the whole time.
And then we play Claire.
That would have been amazing. Yeah, and then you play Claire. That's fine. That could have been interesting there if they did like a Jill story and a Carlos story. Maybe there could have been something there. That being said, how they like intertwined it, it's like that's not what I wanted to do.
No, and I hate that in games too, where like you are playing as a character and you're managing your inventory, and then you have to go play as like another character. Like Witcher 3 did it a little bit, but it wasn't annoying because it was like to teach about Ciri. But like even those moments, you're like, I'm really connecting as Jill. Like, why do I gotta now be Carlos? Like, I don't want to be this guy. I don't like this guy.
This guy, like, for some reason, just like instantly like falls in love with Jill, and there's like no build up whatsoever to the relationship. Like, they just like for some reason are like really close, and they meet like twice, and then it's like the third time it's like, oh, Jill. I was like, what?
What?
What is this relationship here?
Well, and then like like his friend who's like his partner, like the umbrella guy, I forget his name, like Tyrell or something, and he's like, you go get your girl back, and I'm like, they're not dating. They met 3 hours ago. Like they are just.
Yeah, I was like, that was just a weird thing. Yeah, it's.
Oh, it was weird.
And he's like trying to save her. Like it's like, boop. Oh, we gotta get this antidote. We gotta like save her.
Yeah, where I like kind of believe Leon and Claire a little more. Where it's like they're both just terrified about
way more built up
what they're doing, and like they don't even interact that much. They're like
they meet at a gas station. How traditional could you get than that?
Right. So what are your highlights? What are the things you like about it? And then we'll go to kind of our negatives. Give me like 3 or 4 positives.
Highlights. I mean, comparing to like I have to like because they're so similar. I felt like the atmosphere was a little bit better because 2 you spend so much time in the mansion. 3 you get to actually explore around, which I think is great because you get to like run around more. It felt like more open.
Yeah. And
the section that they did like directly copy from 3 was bang on perfect. Little open court.
Yeah.
So that was they scaled that perfectly. What else did they do? The weapons shot better to me. Like they just like
they felt better.
They didn't do damage. That they felt better. Like so, and the like the little attachments, more attachments than 2.
I like that. Great.
Yeah, and I felt you have more utility than 2. So you could like decide like, oh, I want to put this here. I want to do this here. Organize this.
Yeah,
that was my favorite.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of where I'm at too. I think obviously like we talked about graphics and everything looks a lot better. The tension in that first section of the courtyard and like trying to reactivate the subway lines, I felt like that was really well done, really well paced.
Very well done.
Maybe I like really love that first like I guess like hour of that game. But as we said, I think as it goes on, it kind of loses its steam. I love, and Final Fantasy VII has the same kind of thing, but that 90 camp that they took, and like Final Fantasy VII is super 90s and corny dialogue and everything that they've made work. And I think Resident Evil sticks to that pretty well of like, it's corny and it's supposed to be campy and corny, and I really like that they're like sticking to that. I think Carlos pushes it a little too far where like they try to make him this charming guy and he's not charming.
Yeah, he's not charming.
But like Jill's really charmed by him, and I was like, it just doesn't play. And I really like the stuff that is like the seeds almost led in Resident Evil 3 that become like payoffs in Resident Evil 2. So like when you go into the gun store.
That was the yes, the gun store. I forgot about that. Yeah,
and I'm like, oh my god, you know what happens to this guy from 2. We don't have to say what happens, but I love those little nods, and they do that a lot. Which like even in the mansion we talked about, there are some nods that like happen in the mansion. And I thought that was really cool. I thought it was very funny that both games end going underground to get the cure. I was like, wow, this is the same thing.
They're different nests.
Yeah.
So I think you go to like nest 1 or nest 2. There's like you find out there's like bunch of different like underground facilities, which is that's unique, I think.
Yeah,
which I like that.
So, and then
timing wise too in the games between 2 and 3, like because they kind of take place around the same.
Yeah, they do. Right. It's
That's
really
a
cool.
cool thing.
Yeah, it takes place before and after, which I think is really fun. So, what are your negatives? Because I think that we have more negatives on this game.
There's a lot of negatives, and it's sadly it's not to deal with the game itself, because I think it runs great, it looks great, and it plays great. But there's things like outside that we have to consider when talking about a AAA game, which is the price.
This game should not be $60.
$60. This is DLC. This is Resident Evil 2 DLC, which it should have been.
If this game came out for $30 or $40, I think it's a very different conversation of like, this game's great for $30. Like, this is awesome.
Game of the year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it's not.
Yes, but it came out $60, and it came out shorter.
Yeah, it's like
than 2.
4 hours, 5 hours, like 5 hours.
It's probably around there on average.
Yeah,
it's around 5 hours on average, and that's it. And then it gives you the option to play it again at higher difficulty, or like, and it's like, why would I want to replay this campaign? Like, you're making it seem like this is just a campaign you just run through, shoot stuff, which is not what I want to do in my Resident Evil.
Yeah, and
it was those are 2 big points that I feel like really hurt the game.
I agree.
And it probably showed in score, like, because people are gonna be like, oh, $60, I'm not gonna play that. I'm gonna wait till it's $20.
Yeah, this is a game I really recommend waiting till it's $20.
Yep.
It does come with a multiplayer mode, Resident Evil Resistance, which I don't think I didn't play. Did you?
I play a little bit. It sucks.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it's not very good.
It's there's like a mod from way back in a bunch of games called Death Game, where you basically, like, there's one person controlling all the traps and you're just going through, and that's all it is. It's just like you are the mastermind and like putting traps against 4 other players. And most of the time they 4v1 you, or you just they don't work together, so you kill them all.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. And it's just like the same thing over and over. Like, okay, cool, this is interesting mode, but it's not, doesn't feel like Resident Evil.
Yeah, it feels like a tacked on thing is what I've heard.
I would have rather had a horde mode if you're gonna do that.
That'd be great. Yeah, I think the negatives for me are, I think the pacing of the game gets really wonky towards the end. I think the Carlos stuff is kind of jarring and almost irritating. There is a big horde kind of section where you have to just like defend it while this timer goes off, and it's like, there's no stakes here. This isn't fun. It's just like kind of annoying.
There's a lot of new things too, which if someone's looking for like a Resident Evil 3 remake, this isn't it, because there's too many new things and there's a lot of old things they didn't do. Clock Tower scene is very reminiscent of Resident Evil 3. It's like one of the most iconic things that you do in Resident Evil, the old one. They removed the Clock Tower in this one. You don't get any Clock Tower fights with Nemesis. Interesting. Instead, you get like more hospital fights, and then they rearrange how things went. Like, events wise, Jill goes to the police department and does all that research, whereas this time it was like Umbrella Corp for some reason.
Yeah, it's Carlos.
And like, they literally just like waltz in there, and it's like, it's weird, like when you would expect like a police department would be like, what the hell are these guys doing here? But it was just like, yeah, they just show up and they know exactly where to go. They know exactly what to do.
Yeah,
that was kind of interesting. But
yeah, I just thought it
would make more sense. Yeah, it would make more sense if Jill knew, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go back to my STARS office and I'm gonna go get this information and trying to track down this doctor who we had contact with, because we were doing the story. Like, there was like so much evidence that what STARS was doing, that they were trying to wipe that Umbrella Corporation trying to wipe them out. So it was just very weird that you're working with I don't know. It just
no, I'm with you.
It wonky wise 3 made more sense, the original 3, than this.
That being said, I really want them to remake Resident Evil 4 like they've been doing.
I really hope that they don't take like this game and be like, oh, it didn't sell as well as 2, so you know what? No Resident Evil 4 remake.
Yeah.
They need a remake 4.
That's half the reason I bought this. I was like, please remake 4.
Yeah, remake 4, and you're gonna print money. So that's what's like, 4 is one of the greats.
Yeah. So that's kind of what my opinion on it. I don't think it's worth $60. I know you don't.
You want to give a score?
I mean, my score is like, it's fine.
It's a solid 7. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's like a solid
like a 7.
game.
Yeah.
But there's too many cons price wise. It's like there's cons outside the game that
I agree. I think it is a price wise.
It's a good experience though. $20, boom, get it. $30, yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, if you want something to play for 5 hours.
$60, hell no. Get yourself Final Fantasy 7 and have a good time.
Oh my god, let's talk about that. But before we do that, we'll talk about that next week. We have one more thing to do in the show, James.
Yes.
I'm excited. We are building out our top 20 games of all time list that we will then go for and rank. Maybe we'll take some out. We'll cull the list a little bit. We don't know yet.
Yeah, we need to cull it.
But so far, we've got 15 of our 20 games. Our games are Super Mario World, Minecraft, The Last of Us, Doom 1993, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Halo, Halo 2, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, BioShock, Portal 2, Half-Life 2, Mass Effect 2, Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt, plus DLCs, and Shadow of the Colossus. James, it is your turn to pick. What game are you nominating for the list?
There's a lot of firsts on this list. There's a couple seconds. Actually, there's a lot of seconds.
Yeah.
There's 1/3, and 1/4. Jake, I'm gonna pick the first.
Whoa!
I'm gonna pick Grand Theft Auto 5 for top 20 games of all time. And it's more of this is the latest in the series and most well done and most polished, but it's a shout out to the whole Grand Theft Auto series in whole,
right?
Because it's probably one of the greatest game series of all time in terms of how it did open world development that no other game, maybe Saints Row, but has like really come close to.
Right,
it's really solidified it. But the reason why I'm picking 5 is because 5 has had a lot of interesting developments in the past years of its game development, like its releases on 360, right? And then it gets re-released.
Yep.
On the new next generation, and then it gets released on PC, and then it just like keeps making itself.
Yeah.
And it keeps printing money, and I think it's one of the most successful games of all time in terms of like money revenue. The online is insane how much money they make on GTA Online.
It has the biggest entertainment launch weekend of all time, out of movies, out of music, out of everything. It is the biggest entertainment.
And that's
launch
a shout
weekend.
out to the series, to Rockstar Games, and how well done they do. I pick 5 because story's great, story's amazing. The city, the atmosphere, it's the biggest out of all the Grand Theft Auto done. And honestly, it's still popular. And there's one reason why is because there's this modding community that's really, really like pertinent on it. It's called NoPixel, and they do GTA 5 roleplay on it, which is absolutely fun to watch because they do like cop versus robber roleplay, and it's amazing the type of programming technology they did on the server to like incorporate like handcuff mechanics, jail mechanics, hospital mechanics, like all these little intricate things, racing mechanics, and they just built up the game better. So they allowed GTA 5 has like a little like underlayer where it allowed modding to be a big thing on PC, which is like that.
Well, what I think is, you kind of touched on it briefly, but you talk about Grand Theft Auto 5 and there's multiple things you have to talk about, right? You have to talk about when it first launched, and it was the campaign, it was the story mode, it was in Los Santos, like that's what it was. And then of course everything changed when the multiplayer mode launched online, and it was bad. The original Grand Theft Auto Online was really bad.
Online sucked.
And then they added Heist, they added all these things in it.
Heist propelled it to the next level.
And it made like where I would even say that Grand Theft Auto Online, it is part of 5, so that's why it's included, but like that's what goes on that list really, is like, this is what they did with this game, is like they made this ginormous money-making machine that is Grand Theft Auto Online that people live in.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. The people live in, make money off of.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing. It's probably one of the best racing games of all time too, which is funny when it's not at its core, but it's so well done with how you can race in cities and around. It's amazing. It's just a shout out to Grand Theft Auto in general. 4 was great. 4 has a great story. 3's also great. Vice City's great. San Andreas is also, like, there's just a lot of different Rockstar games that they've done well, and then I'm really excited for the next one.
Yeah, 6.
I feel like
it's coming, but I think too, like the world itself, like the open world and how it has like the big downtown LA city, and then opposed to, you know, you've got the hills of like the mansions of LA, and then
very LA.
Then you've got like the Dust Bowl, like hillbilly portions of like, you know, eastern.
Death Valley kind of.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't want to say Riverside, but but it's got like kind of that dust, like, you know, gross part of the city, right? I think that they kind of nail in that you can drive from one point to the other, and it seamlessly doesn't load. It doesn't hitch to load anything. There's a military base in the middle of it. They've just got
the military base,
the prison. They've got everything that, like, and that story of just the single player, which I spent the most time in. I barely played online, but I know of it. Is like so expansive and unique, and then of course making it translate to an almost MMO like game is just awesome. No, I think it rightfully deserves to be on the list. I mean, it is probably the greatest open world just in general. I think we'll have another open world, I think, at the end of this.
Probably will.
But Red Dead 2 is my favorite Rockstar game. And this one, I just doesn't.
And then they knocked that out of the park too. Like, so they're not just a one-trick Grand Theft Auto type.
No, and it doesn't hold a candle to what Grand Theft Auto has become globally. And I agree. It deserves to be on the list. I'm surprised. I thought you were going like Resident Evil 5 or something. You're like the 5th.
Resident
I was like, what 5th game? Oh, Grand Theft Auto. That makes more sense.
There's 2 you could pick, basically.
Yeah, there is.
It's either Skyrim or it's Grand Theft Auto.
And I think we're gonna pick that one later. Spoilers.
So that's why I was like, I'll pick the first.
Yeah. So Thank you so much for watching episode 19 of the Side Escape Gaming Podcast. James, we are one away from 20. I am very excited. Maybe, James, we wear some suits on 20.
I could do that.
All right, cool. We'll be in suits. Episode 20 will be in suits. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful week.